Stewart-Haas Racing will have at least one seat to fill this offseason, and Joe Gibbs Racing may have an opening as well. Which young drivers in the lower ranks are best suited to take on those jobs? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Friday. Talladega weekend is here. It's upon us. But I want to shift gears today. We've talked way too much about penalties, fixing the short tracks, the politics of adding more horsepower. I'm bored, honestly. Today I want to tackle one of my favorite subjects, something we haven't discussed in quite some time. NASCAR silly season. The reason I want to bring this up today is because earlier this week, reporter Bob Pockrass, Fox Sports, tweeted out a video clip of him asking Josh Berry if he's had any talks with Cup Series teams after he filled in for Chase Elliott the past few weeks. And Josh Berry, like a veteran, dodged the question beautifully with a smile on his face. But it got me thinking. Josh Berry may very well end up with a full-time NASCAR Cup Series ride sooner rather than later. Teams like Hendrick Motorsports, Team Penske, Trackhouse appear to have their long-term rosters secured. But other teams like Stewart-Haas Racing have huge holes to fill. Joe Gibbs Racing is facing a couple of questions. Plenty of mid-pack teams are always keeping their options open. So today, I wanted to look at the 6 top prospects in the NASCAR Xfinity and NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and put them onto a list based on a mix of talent, experience, what kind of funding they have behind them. Basically, I identified the 6 drivers in Xfinity and trucks that I believe have the best shot at landing a full-time NASCAR Cup Series ride next season. Obviously, not all of these drivers are going to get to Cup next year. I don't think we'll have, 4, 5, or 6 rookies next season. But a couple of these guys probably will. There are a ton of variables to factor in. Like existing Cup Series drivers may or may not have deals done beyond this year. Like the front row drivers, Todd Gillen, Mike McDowell, that team typically operates on 1-year deals. We don't know about Corey LaJoie, Harrison Burton, Chris Buescher. Who knows? They could stay where they're at. They could be looking for other opportunities as well. NASCAR contracts are usually kept pretty hush-hush, pretty quiet. We know Denny Hamlin is on an expiring contract. We know Martin Truex Jr. is on an expiring contract. We know Kevin Harvick said he's planning to retire. We know Eric Almirola postponed his retirement. Might be going year to year at this point. There are some things we know, there are other things we don't, a ton of variables. I want to focus on Xfinity and Truck Series drivers who have the best shot at going Cup Series racing very, very soon. Let's begin. I've given enough backstory, enough context, enough pretext to this video. Let's just get to it. First up, Zane Smith. Get this man out of the Truck Series. 3 straight Championship 4 appearances. He's the defending Truck Series champion. Already has 2 wins in the first 7 races this season. Front Row Motorsports and Ford clearly know what they have. I mean, they booted their existing Cup Series driver, Todd Gillen, out of the 38 seat for a handful of races this year to give Zane Smith and his sponsors some seat time and some screen time. From what I understand, Zane Smith is under contract with Front Row Motorsports, but he also fits under the Ford umbrella. Could Ford call an audible, move him to another Ford program, a different Ford Cup Series seat? Or is Zane Smith forced to wait for either the 34 or the 38 to open up? The 38's always a possibility, but I'd hate to see Todd Gillen get the boot considering how good he's been the last month or so. 4 straight top 15 finishes would have been top 10 at Martinsville until they lost a cylinder. That's not on the driver, so Front Row may have a difficult decision to make. Zane Smith, top prospect, Truck Series champion, Ford loves him, but Todd Gillen's doing pretty darn well. That's where Ford may step in and put Zane Smith elsewhere, because after this season, he cannot spend another season in the Truck Series. It would just be doing him a disservice at this point. Second driver on my list, I mentioned him a few moments ago, but Josh Berry. I think it's safe to say his draft stock, if you will, has risen somewhat since filling in for Chase Elliott for those 5 races, had a couple of top 10s, finished 2nd at Richmond a couple weeks ago. Standout performance for sure. He was helped by a bold pitch strategy and a timely caution, but hey, he had to run with the leaders on that final restart and he held on to 2nd. So Josh Berry certainly shined a couple of different points during his Chase Elliott substitution role. He is 32 years old, a little old for a prospect, but hey, Greg Biffle was a Cup Series rookie, I think at like 32, 33 years old. His short track roots, his connections to Dale Jr. have made Josh Berry a fan favorite, at least among hardcore NASCAR fans in recent years. That's important considering Berry himself doesn't seem to bring too much funding. He's had tire pros for a couple of years now with Junior Motorsports, Bass Pro Shops, moved over to the 8 car this year. That's huge. But my guess is it's the Dale Jr. connection that's getting those deals done. If Josh Berry were to separate from Dale Jr., go Cup racing, he's on his own. Can a team find reliable sponsor support? Can they bring in the big bucks to justify going with Josh Berry? I don't think Josh Berry is married to any one single team or manufacturer, so that may benefit him. Like, there's no seats at Hendrick for him, so he's never going to Hendrick Motorsports at this rate. He is a true free agent, I suppose. Next driver on my list is John Hunter Nemechek. With Ty Gibbs in the Cup Series now and Chandler Smith with Chevrolet, there is no question that John Hunter Nemechek is the most Cup-ready driver in the Toyota pipeline. He's leading the Xfinity Series points this year. He's got 2 wins. He's tied for the most top 5s, top 10s, the most stage wins in the series through the first 8 races. And remember, John Hunter Nemechek has a full year of Cup experience back in 2020 with Front Row. If Martin Truex Jr. decides that this will be his final season as a Cup Series driver, I think the 19 is John Hunter's to lose. Also, keep in mind, Denny Hamlin has still not signed a new extension for next year. No one's been talking about this. Now, Denny Hamlin did say at the very beginning of this year that he was very confident a deal would get done. It just may take some time. The time is ticking, and FedEx, his longtime primary sponsor, is also in a contract year. And if you've paid any attention, you'll notice that FedEx has only sponsored 2 of the first 10 races this year. 80% of Hamlin's races thus far have been sponsored by someone other than FedEx, so that tells me they may be on their way out, or may begin to scale their support back dramatically. That could affect those contract negotiations. Again, I expect Hamlin to stay with Joe Gibbs Racing, but we also expected Kyle Busch to stay with Joe Gibbs Racing. I believe Hamlin will stay in the 11, but until that ink has dried, a tad bit of skepticism is fair. Next driver on my list is Cole Custer. His return to the Xfinity Series has not gotten off to a great start. He's winless thus far, only 3 top 10s. But Cole Custer does have a few things going for him. He is a Cup Series winner back in 2020. He's got 3 full years of Cup Series experience. His dad basically runs the team over at Stewart-Haas Racing. And as we've discussed, they've got holes to fill. But there are a couple of things. There's one big thing working against Cole Custer. Sponsorship. I don't think Cole Custer brings in any sponsorship, and he's not the most marketable driver at this point. I think that's fair to say. It sounds very likely that Busch Beer will leave Stewart-Haas Racing after this season and go to Trackhouse, which means whoever replaces Kevin Harvick, I'm sure SHR would like them to bring a little funding to fill that gap. That is not Cole Custer, and to be honest, unless the results get better this season, like he's supposed to be a championship contender this year, he's supposed to win a handful of races this year. If he falls below those marks, I don't know, I think Cole Custer's Cup Series future is going to get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, but for now, I think he has to be on this list. Let's talk about his current Xfinity Series teammate, Riley Herbst. Yeah, Riley Herbst has to be on here. I want to be clear, I still don't think Riley Herbst is Cup Series ready, but that being said, he has clearly shown improvement year after year after year. He has 6 top 10 finishes these first 8 races, and the 2 races he didn't finish inside the top 10, he was wrecked while running inside the top 10. He's not leading laps, but every week, no matter the track, he's consistently right there around 6th place. That's pretty good. Now, off the track, he's a Kevin Harvick client, KHI. He's got support from the Terribles brand and Monster Energy. Again, you look at Stewart-Haas Racing. Kevin Harvick leaves, Busch Beer probably leaves. If Eric Almirola retires, who knows where Smithfield goes? Will they stick around? If not, that's a huge hole to fill. Stewart-Haas Racing may be desperate in a year or so, and if that's the case, they may look at Riley Herbst as a legitimate full-time Cup Series option. That's why he's on this list. He has improved as a driver. Don't think he's Cup ready yet, but he's getting closer. It's the sponsorship, the funding, the stability that he brings with him. That's why SHR, I could see potentially picking Riley Herbst if stuff hits the fan, let's just say. There's one more driver I want to mention, and that's Austin Hill. Real quick, I know some of y'all are going to mention, well, what about Chandler Smith? He's been great to start this year. Chandler Smith signed a multi-year deal. I'm not sure if it was a multi-year Xfinity Series deal, but it read like a multi-year Xfinity Series deal with Colleague this past offseason. He's still really young. He's still in just his first full season of Xfinity racing. I want to give him one more year of Xfinity. So come 2025, yeah, Chandler Smith, one day he will be a Cup driver, mark my words. But next year, I'm not so sure. So I don't have Chandler Smith on this list, but back to Austin Hill. Red hot to begin this season. 3 wins to lead this series. He's second in points behind John Hunter. He's emerged as a tremendous super speedway racer. I mean, yeah, RCR's been giving him some great race cars, but he's getting the job done. Austin Hill's future is somewhat unclear. He's got all that support from Bennett. They've funded him some Cup Series rides for him the last year in that 62 car. He's gotten some next-gen experience. He's a championship favorite right now in Xfinity. But if we look at RCR in the Cup Series, Austin Hill's not replacing Kyle Busch, and I don't think he's replacing Austin Dillon. So where does he go? Does he go to an RCR affiliate team? Is there even a spot open at any of those types of teams? Does RCR ever open a third car again? They'd probably have to buy a charter, and who knows how much that would set RC back at this point. So I don't know exactly what Austin Hill's future will look like. He's not the flashiest driver, the biggest name, the biggest star, but I don't know, somewhat quietly, he's been dominant to start this season. He's been fantastic, on a roll. Like I said, red hot. He's got to be getting at least some attention from these Cup Series team owners. But that's my list. Zane Smith, Josh Berry, John Hunter, Nemechek, Cole Custer, Riley Herbst, and Austin Hill. At least a couple of those drivers, I believe, will be full-time in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. Silly season has been pretty quiet so far, mainly because Suarez, Chastain signed extensions. Bowman already signed an extension. So some of the big free agent players we thought we would see coming into 2023 have already signed with their current teams. But the year is long. It's not even summer yet. Mark my words, there will be at least one big silly season surprise this year. There always is. I can't wait to see who drops that bomb and when. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I appreciate you watching this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. It helps me out a ton. If you're new to the channel and you love NASCAR, you're in the right place. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. If you want more NASCAR content and to check out some Out of the Groove merch, you can head to dailydownforce.com. And thank you to my Patreon supporters, as always. Have a wonderful weekend, folks. Be safe if you're heading to Talladega. Should be a fantastic weekend of racing action. I will see you Sunday night after the Geico 500. I think they're still sponsoring it. Should be a good time. I'll see you then. Take it easy, y'all.